Patty here too, so it's that magical hour. We'll ask everybody to stand up and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll get started here tonight right away. And please, as we go through our agenda, always remember our mission and our vision statements. We do have enough for a quorum. Call the meeting to order, the quorum. We need a motion to approve the agenda. No changes?
No motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All righty, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Agenda approved. No hearing of delegations. You should have received the consent items, and I believe you have a few other invoices in front of you also with your packet on Friday. Any comments with that?
Yeah, everything is fine. Consent items, finance, all routine for this month. I'll talk a little bit about financial review in my report. CAR is complete. Lisa has all of that done. Our auditors left Friday, so really kind of wrapping up our FY24. Part of that process is us putting our financial forecast models together, which we're not completely done with that yet, but we can probably. We're close to closing the books on FY24 and can talk a little bit about some of those numbers.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, need a motion then to approve the consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Thanks, Brett. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Todd. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent items approved. Communications to the board. We got a tour of the field house opportunity.
Yeah, Tura Architect has said that they would come over Friday and provide a tour of the field house to any board members who are interested. So we're planning on 5 o'clock on Friday. I'll send a text on location. They'll get us hard hats and all that stuff that we'll have to do. But I haven't actually been out in it either. But it'll be neat to see where it's at, and it's to a point you can see some layout and some of those things, which will be exciting. So we are going to post an agenda for that, just in case we would have 4 members or not. So you'll see that come out.
If I remember correctly, originally I thought maybe like the wrestling room and a couple would be done by Christmassy time. Is that?
Yeah.
Are we how the?
They still say some of that in our progress meetings, to be honest, but the project manager does. The on-site manager usually kind of shakes his head no. So I don't think that's likely. When we're out there on Friday, you'll see there certainly is the possibility to isolate that part and get that done. That's why they still kind of hold on to that, but we're not planning on it, but it could happen.
With June, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So.
I will probably have to pick up my mom or my sister from the airport, so don't count on me, but I might
Okay.
show up. But if we do, where are we meeting?
I'll text something out Friday on location. Most likely, probably in the back park. Well, and we'll have to avoid that Friday. I'll send something out on where we'll meet to get everyone together.
Okay. So, all righty. Sounds good. Hope everybody can make it, and plan 5 o'clock then on Friday. Joe, we'll go right into your superintendent's report.
Yeah. Talked a little bit about financial review. We have we're close to closing the books on FY24. The certified annual report is complete. Auditors were here. They left on Friday. Those are kind of our last steps. Our forecast models aren't complete yet, but we can look at where we ended in FY24 for the most part, and I'll explain for the most part. A few of the financial health indicators, one being solvency, that school districts use to look at the financial health of the district. And what that is, it's when you take the total general fund revenues, the unassigned and assigned fund balances, so dollars you have left, and you divide those by your revenues, your general fund revenues minus what your AEA flow through is. That is your solvency. It's considered, 15% is excellent, 5% is considered good, and that chart that I have in there, I have 11, 8, and 9. I'll tell you, that's the lowest it would possibly be. Lisa and I were working on this a lot today. It's very likely more like 14, maybe even 15%. That's some of us closing up. So that's really good. And really, that's, how long could we last without any revenue is kind of what that is. And we're at a pretty good number. So that's a good sign, a sign of financial health that we have a solvency that high. Secondly, our UAB, usually I refer to that as our unspent balance. It's the amount of our unused district general fund capacity, so not necessarily cash, but authority, how much we could spend on behalf of the students, the spending authority. And part of it's what's left over at the end of the fiscal year and what you carry to the next year. The funding capacity does carry from year to year. The unspent budget authority is a trend line, again, that we use to kind of inform our expenditure decisions, a minimum of 10 to 15%, not to exceed 25. On ours, you'll see it's about 20%. Again, that's as low as it would possibly be. It could be possibly a little bit higher as we finalize some stuff. 5.7 million is where that UAB number is. Again, two indicators, probably the most solid indicators that you use to look back at your financial health. How are we doing going into next year? We're doing really, really well, and we probably couldn't be more healthy financially than we currently are. What drives all that is our enrollment. We built all of our models last year, if you remember, on our certified enrollment dropping 30 students. That's based on graduating seniors and kindergarten. That's how we can predict those two things. Those things did happen with our graduating seniors in kindergarten, but in between we gained students, a significant number of students. That we have the highest certified enrollment that we've had in the district in the last 25 years. It's probably actually 26 or 27 years, but I run out of electronic numbers, and once I get into the paper, I'm not exactly for sure what numbers they're using, but it's the largest we've been since at least 2000. 1,446, it's actually 1,448 because we had a couple duplicates that worked in our favor when I finalized it today. Open enrollment in, 117. Open enrollment out, you don't know that quite yet as certified enrollment's not certified until tomorrow, but it's about the same, 115, 116 out. We no longer have whole grade shared students in or out, so that number has been 0. Something to look at here, in 2022, we had 1,308 students. Our open enrollment in was 155. It dropped 35. That was because we had that many Laverne students who were open enrolled in. So that 35, was added on to the 1,308, plus our 55 were no longer whole grade shared. They were added on as well. So that's about 90 students from a reorganization that got added to the certified number to here. But really we went up more than that, which is my point here, that it's not just reorganization that's created this bigger number. It's more than that. I would say it's probably 50 or 60 kids more than that in a 2-year span. So that's really good. Still, in our forecast that we make over the next month, I'll still predict in our models a drop for next year. And again, that's based on graduating seniors and incoming kindergarten. It still on paper looks like we'll be a negative 30. Maybe we will be, maybe we won't, but we're in a pretty unpredictable point of enrollment for us when they move in. And we don't really have direct reasons of why that's happening other than that it is, and we have a good enrollment. So that, you put that on with what we talked about where we ended last year financially, we're in a very good place, and that's exciting for the district as we move ahead. The Iowa Association of School Boards Annual Convention is coming up. It's November 21st at the Iowa Event Center in Des Moines. The Delegate Assembly, which we have on the agenda later on, we need to appoint a delegate for that, is November 20th. The 3 convention keynote speakers are Sarita Mabin, Donna Beagle, and Anthony Muhammad. I've heard Anthony Muhammad speak a number of times, read some of his books. He works mostly in PLC models and some of that work for schools. I think it would be great if we could get as many board members as possible to the convention. It is something, it's really a one-day event. It's a Thursday event. You can drive down and drive back, or we can get hotel rooms. Either way, just let Lisa or I know, and hopefully we can get as many as possible as there. There is a link also to the convention information in the superintendent report.
Tom represents us from the state level also.
Yep, Tom is a IASB board member, has duties through those couple days. We'll talk about the delegate when we get to that. Rodney's done that for a few years. It's an important event for all schools, public schools, and school boards, and they really do a fantastic job of putting it on.
Yeah, I hope we can get as many. All right, any questions or comments on Joe's report? All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to the administrative report. I believe we have Mr. Cecil here to talk DCAP. If I said that wrong, you'll have to correct me.
You said it correctly. We got DCAP and ICAP and a little attendance excitement tonight. So, the first one though is the district career and academic plan. This is a collective group from all buildings. Historically, it started just 8th grade through 12th grade. So the high school held a bulk of that. But really what we're looking at in our plan, an overall roadmap for all of our students for their individual career and academic plan. So DCAP being the district comprehensive plan. What are we doing from kindergarten business partners on up to junior level, senior level job shadows. So what's that entire process look like is our DCAP district level, and then each student has an individual career and academic plan. So in essence, and I'm going to get to that, but they're really setting what they're going to do when they move forward after us. Why do we do it? Part of it talks about, or part of it ties back to our vision. When we talk about all students being successful, we don't believe that ends the Sunday they cross the stage. We want to set them up for whatever's next. It is also part of state code. So there's another good reason to do it, but a plan and a process, they've been in place for us. We were doing some of this stuff before it came out as a requirement. We haven't talked about it necessarily as something new when the requirement happened. Years ago when we had some block scheduling, we were doing Wednesday and Thursday. Opposite of PD, we would do seminars and bring in career people. That was all part of this. So the process in place though is our DCAP. Maybe. I can't move on. Sure. Some bullet points here, but basically high quality career related activities. We want to encourage students to design and reflect. Each one of our activities is kind of a learn about, plan it, go do it, reflect on it afterwards. Collective framework. Each grade has some different things while in high school, so that builds upon itself. I'll show those in just a minute. Then also part of it, successfully complete core curriculum. Again, that's not a new piece, but coursework needed with it. Prepare students for the 5 essential components, which I'll go through next, and then get as many students as we can to complete the FAFSA. A lot of studies that completion of the FAFSA itself creates a much better chance that students actually attend, which isn't probably rocket science. They probably spent too much money on that study, but just the reality of completing it. Our Ben Scooter Scholarship now is tied to the completion of the FAFSA. So in essence, every student who's asking us, because they always want a paycheck versus maybe a piece of paper with a few signatures on it, but when asked what's it worth to fill out the FAFSA, it's worth about $2,000 a year for 4 years. So that's pretty good payback, and we get a pretty good return. But the 5 essential components of a student's individual career and academic plan, the bulleted or the highlighted items are self-understanding. Students take some interest inventories where they what kind of things do you like, skill sets. We use a product called Zello, which is a career and academic Facebook for kids page kind of. But kids can go in, they heart different careers that they may have an interest in. Then their feed about those careers starts to align with that. They might heart some colleges that they have interest in, and again, then their feeds that are popping up align to that. They can personalize it, some of their own volunteer experience, work experience, all of that in this electronic site. Anyway, all of their self-understanding surveys populate in there. From there we go into information. So a student, I think there's 3 or 4 surveys a student would take, tells them more about themselves, and then Zello puts out there, here are some possible careers. So they can explore some information about the careers. Then we work on exploration. We are back. We didn't have our job visits for a while there. Some things with Iowa Lakes that didn't, they lost some grant funding, but that's back. So job shadows will be coming back to get kids out on the job site. We have a couple classes that work some of that partnerships with businesses to get kids out doing some internships. So that's part of exploring the career. Then we have a chunk of post-secondary exploration where we explore colleges. We've brought in college reps for years. We do some things more recently, like we might compare 2-year schools to 4-year private to 4-year public, just to give kids a broader understanding that way. This week is application week, so we will have a couple people in, actually in this room starting tomorrow, and trying to get kids to apply to something. It might be for a job, it might be for a tech school, it might be for a 4-year school, it might be to multiple schools, but application week is upon us, so that's part of the post-secondary exploration, and then a decision, step 5. That's all right, you don't have to, step 5, career and post-secondary decision. We want every student to get to a point where they're able to talk about that decision, what they did to prepare for it, and how they came about it. So kind of a comprehensive plan per kid is the ICAP. DCAP is the district as a whole.
So when kids like the FAFSA and college applications, when it's time to do that, you guys are grabbing those kids that are seniors in high school and you're saying,
I saw the schedule again tonight. It went out on remind to staff and to students who's signing up for college tomorrow during what periods. So we are tracking seniors right now for that. We each have an advisory, so we have 35 advisory rooms, and so every teacher has 2 to 4 seniors that are there.
just, I've never done it since it's been 20-something years, but 25 years. How involved are college applications to the university, to Iowa conference schools, to?
Easier all the time.
Like, how long does it take a kid?
I'm gonna say 20 minutes. 20 minutes. You have to have access to a transcript. So if you don't have all your stuff together, which when they do it here, we have all their stuff together. So you have to have access to your transcript. Test scores, if you want to submit a score. ACT test score is not required now for a lot of places. A lot of places not required for entrance. It's required if you want to apply for some of their scholarships. I've helped a student with an Iowa State application, and I was at UNI last Friday and asked those same questions, and they said ACT score if you want to be in the running for these scholarships, which also leads us to some students that want to retake it and try and better their score. They can see ahead of time, maybe I got a 19 and a 20 can get me this. Well, then go take it. But maybe I got a 19 and I need a 28 to get that. Well, then don't go retake it. You're probably not jumping from a 19 to a 28. But
Also asked about the FAFSA, and we have a couple different workshops for that, right?
we do have workshops. The Iowa,
I can. Is that
yes,
right?
I can.
For parents?
They
or
are-
is it-
Yep, for
They are
parents.
awesome, and you can get on there and they'll virtually meet with you and help, because FAFSA is a pain in the butt.
I remember doing it, but
It hasn't gotten better.
And they just changed it, so this past.
Yeah, they did just change
it. It just got different.
So it got different. But yeah, so we have times that are set up and people can sign up for appointments and get help doing it. And we have some that, I had one last year that eventually they just sent me all their stuff. So here you go. we help out. We did, so took that. A couple things about the teams. We have a high school leadership team that specifically works on the ICAP portion of that. And then we also have a district leadership team that's admin and teachers that's gonna help with some of our next steps to gather data from the whole district. We know there are lots of things that happen throughout our district. We haven't been very good about collecting all of the data to put into the DCAP report that's part of the requirement. And part of that is, I would say, we've been doing it for a long time, and we did it before we had to report out on it. So now when they say, what do you do in elementary for careers, we say, oh, nothing. And then we ask, well, yeah, we did have this person in to read, and we do go visit the hospital. I think this week is where I think I've seen the first graders traipsing around too. So there are a lot of those pieces. So that's one of our steps. If you go to the next one. This is really our focus for this year. Develop that process to collect the necessary artifacts across all buildings. We get some feedback in rubric form on how our DCAP looks and if we're meeting some of the things. This last year's, as we dug into it a little bit, there's things that they don't look like we're meeting them, but we have been. So we need to work on a way to collect all of that. And then the second part, probably the bigger part, is to continue to explore career opportunities for kids. We've talked about it with the counseling department, Janie and myself. We talked about it again today as part of our PD time of continuing to provide more at that junior, senior level internships. And today's conversation went to a little bit more by department. We currently have Brian Connick, who's MOC certified, multi-occupational, which means he can oversee them in any aspect. Other teachers can oversee those within their own fields, and so we're looking at part of our rollout for next year's course guide will include some more of those opportunities within each field, which allows students to get hands-on experience. It requires some reflection and communication coordination with the teacher, and it does not require the same seat time physically in a classroom with the teacher. Their time is out with the job site. So those are our two goals for this year.
Ready for that?
Questions about DCAP or ICAP before I talk a little bit of attendance?
How are you guys measuring success?
Um,
Is it just placement, or do you kind of assess with each one of the kids, like how they felt about it?
Part of it is success rate, I would say, of the plan that they have. And we know plenty of kids are going to change their plans, but I would say over time, we used to have a lot of kids that left that would say, I have no idea. And I know that's not necessarily a quantitative piece, but I know right now we're in a setup where almost all of our staff with almost all of our seniors can say, yes, here's where they're going, here's why they're going there. And I know for us, that's a much better spot to be in when scholarship things come across. We might bring that up at a faculty meeting, and somebody will say, well, I have a welder in my advisory. So just that connection of knowing what their plan is and that they have a plan, that's probably a first success check off. Some of the other things will be feedback on what students give us as far as how well they were prepared, at least for making that decision. And then with that, we also know that every kid who goes on changes their mind a lot of times. So it doesn't mean they'll necessarily end up in the career they picked, but those stats have been out for a long time on how many times people switch majors, right? I mean, so.
Like you said, it's hard to quantify or call it success if they stuck with the plan. I mean, everybody, there's a lot of changes.
Right.
The fact they've got.
Well, and some plans shouldn't be stuck with.
Decisions to have those
Right.
goals, but
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Do you ever follow up like last year's graduating class, or if you follow up like a 1 year, 2 year, 4 year and see where they're at?
Not maybe as formally as you're asking, right? And certainly some things we can do there. There are informal pieces of things. One of our data pieces, we know graduates who apply for scholarships return, right? So I mean that is one benchmark I think we use and have as far as if kids are continuing or if kids have gone from a 2 year to a 4 year or 2 year and graduated and we're done. That's more, I mean, some of that trends change because of outside environment, some of it is the class, right? Whatever it is. So we look at some of it, but I don't know that we put a ton of stock in it just because of the variables
That's fair.
that are in humans.
The state does collect that data, and we used to have a post-secondary warehouse. The ADAs used to compile a lot of that and send us a report. I'm not certain if they still have somebody who is doing that, but they used to track kids over 10 years. They had been doing by enrollment at schools, and they'd be able to go back and tell us. So there are some groups out there that are tracking that. They even sometimes track it out of states. So there are groups that do look at this, that we could factor in some things too.
I just think that would be interesting.
Yeah, it is
I mean,
interesting.
I understand that the scholarships are based on, whether or not they continue, but
Yeah.
just wondered.
Yeah. All right, my other topic, while I'm here, I told Mr. Carter if I had the mic and the podium, I was going to steal another minute of time. As chronic absenteeism and attendance has been a topic across the country, I wanted to touch base on a couple of things. There's a tremendous amount of work being done at the high school that I can speak to right now. The other buildings are too, but I'm talking about what I see and feel every day. Communication with students from myself, a ton of work from Mr. Morgan, and then individual teachers and advisors. That is on the rise. I know when Mr. Morgan and I were talking the other day, he had a host of students that he talked to potentially for the first time. And they're not you're in trouble for being gone conversations. They're just realistic conversations about missing some school and supports to get you caught up or get you above ground. We've had a couple of activities we have done in our advisory groups that again aren't the bad side, and that's what I feel like probably why I wanted to talk about it, because I feel in opinions out there, wherever that may be, there's a lot of bad side to that attendance connotation maybe, and that's not what's happening in our building. It's students walking up and talking about, I have a dentist appointment next week. Is this the most logical time to do it? And what else have you missed? And yes, let's go there. So it's the same conversations that I would dream happen in my home and all of your homes. But I know in my home sometimes, as hectic as it gets with multiple kids, that you don't always get time for those conversations. So student communication certainly on the rise. Our parent communication is way better. I had a message tonight from a parent. My son or daughter is suggesting this about tomorrow's class. I replied, that is not anything that came from me or Mr. Morgan. They replied, we didn't think so. So the parents and the communication with Mr. Morgan a ton, with myself some, certainly on the rise. And then the bottom one, happily then, attendance is on the rise. Mr. Carter shared moments ago, it's our highest enrollment in 25 years, certified enrollment. I show you the next slide. Here's 10 years of attendance data. Let's digest for a second. 10 years of attendance data from August 23rd to October 11th. So August 23rd every year to October 11th. So there's a possibility, if the 11th fell on a weekend other years, that you've got a day or two not comparable. I wasn't going to look at 10 years of calendars to count 35 days in for each one. I figured this was pretty good. This is a number of students. So this is where I put at the top. This is real numbers. This isn't what percentage of our students. This is bodies that we work with every day. The percentage of students who have hit so far 20% or more absences, which is more than 7 absences so far this school year. And I only went back 10 years. Meaning my highest enrollment in 25. This is our best attendance in the last 10. I'm going to venture to guess more than 10, but I haven't done that much digging yet. But if you look at the numbers, the 2024 line on the far right, we have 7 students who are in that category right now in our building. Okay, so that's 7 students on the far right. A year ago, we were at 32. 2 years ago, we were at 35. 3 years ago, if you didn't figure out that strike up is when we tried to come back to school after COVID. But think about that, 45 kids in the first 35-ish days of school that had missed at least 7 of them. And I'll tell you, in looking at the data, it's not just that they were all at 7 in a period or two. They were at like 30s, and that data was bad. And I thought, well, let's go back pre-COVID, right? So you see from 2018 to 2020, 2018, 2019, 2020, we were in the low teens maybe. Prior to that, though, 2015, 2016, we were running in the 20 kids that would meet that criteria today. So again, plenty of partnerships in this. We've met with the assistant county attorney. We've met with the providers a couple weeks ago now out to the hospital to talk about maybe dispelling some of the myths of what's going on. The bottom line, though, is that screen back, our communication with kids has improved, our communication with parents has improved, and our attendance has improved. So kids are here. We have more kids. We have more kids on rosters, but we have more kids physically in the building on an average day-to-day basis than we have in a long time. And that's a really, really good thing. And the work of Mr. Morgan, the work of the teachers, the work of the advisors, we talked about it today in our PD. It couldn't be better. They're making those connections and supporting our students, and it's paying off.
To give you some comparison data, in 2018, there was 50,000 kids in Iowa who were chronically absent. 2023, there was 120,000, so over about 2.5 times as many kids in a 5-year time period, and it all comes from, we know what happened. The COVID impacted education in a lot of different ways, and it didn't just come and go. It's taken us 4+ years to recover attendance-wise, and actually we're beyond that. We're doing a better job, and it's very focused. There's a lot of work being done by our staff to get it to this place. So this is exciting, and data we'll continue to work at, and that's part of all of our goals, and might come up in my goals later on as well.
Any other questions for Jared or anything? All right, well, thank you for your time and all the
You bet.
information tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we'll get into the business part of the meeting tonight. We'll start with some old business and second readings.
Second readings there's just 4 board policies there. First, 50501, the student progress reports and conferences, no change. That already aligned to the IASB recommendation. 5053, student honor and awards. We update the sentence that students who have not attended Algona High School during their last year of high school will not be eligible for honors and awards. That is our current practice, but adding that to the board policy. Policy 5054, testing program, an additional paragraph regarding surveys, which is a state requirement now. And 5045, graduation requirements, correct the number of credits required to graduate as we approved in our May board meeting. So updating the board policy to reflect that.
What was the awards, is the entire last year?
Their entire last year, yes.
That's always been that way, right?
It is. That's our practice, but that sentence was not in our policy.
All right, any questions? If not, we need a motion then to approve the second readings of these board policies.
To approve the second reading.
Thank you, Brent. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Lanny. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Policies approved. Going into new business, we'll start with first policy.
Yep, first reading, so no action on these today. There is a few more of them in this month. Lisa creates that calendar of our board policy, so we're always up to date. The ones that have changes, first of all, is 5071, the student health and immunization certificates. Recommended to change the term physician to licensed healthcare provider. 5072, administration of medications to students. Authorization, we add asthma, airway constricting, or respiratory distress medication. There's no changes to that. The next change would go all the way down to 5076, student insurance. Actually, we're recommending no change. Now, our policy is not exactly the same as IASB, but ours does give the district the authority to provide insurance or not. and the district is not required to provide parent-paid student insurance. The only other change then is in 700, the purpose of non-instructional business services. Our policy has additional language in paragraph 1. The IASB recommends language stating that if a bargaining unit is recognized, its language will prevail. An example of that, our teacher associates are unionized, so their bargaining agreement would prevail over our handbook, for example. And it does. That's how we currently practice. So no action on those tonight, and most of them didn't have any change.
All right, we'll look through them a little better and be ready for us next month.
Yep.
So, all right, we'll talk a little bit about some change orders.
Change order, a little bit different type of discussion than we had with change orders last time, which is good. Change order number 1, both of these change orders are simply items that just were not included in the bid. Either they weren't in the design yet, like the material for the shot put pit. The first one, that's exactly what it is. It's a change order for materials. Most of it is in the crushed red brick that's in our shot put pit. We didn't know the material that would be in there at the time of the bid about a year ago, so that just wasn't in there. So we knew that expense would come. The second change order is for $23,000. That's to install the primary conduit into the building. That was not included in the bid, as AMU was going to do that for us. We still would have paid AMU to do that, so it wouldn't have been in the bid. They, however, are not going to do that, so our contractor has a line for that to happen, and the $23,000 is the amount for that to be completed. So much different than some of our previous change orders.
Where's the 23,000 on there?
That's this one right here. So on these documents that I've linked in there, the fourth line is the change order amount, and then to equal the total contract. That's the $23,000 for the conduit. This is the materials, including the shot put pit, $29,000 to equal the total of the contract. So the original contract was $12,800. We're at $13,100.
Any questions on those change orders? If not, we need a motion then to approve the change orders.
So
Motion to approve the change orders.
Thank you, Tom, and we'll do Todd as a second.
Okay.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Do you
I'm sorry.
anticipate anything else in terms of change order, or are things pretty?
I don't know, Todd.
Okay, no, I didn't know.
I wish I could say no, but it,
You know, 'cause like this brick, I mean, that is something you knew
Yeah, we knew
ahead
that
of time,
one.
and I just didn't know if there's anything else like that.
I don't know another one like that.
Okay.
Certainly hopeful of no others, but some things out there that we're just not sure on right
Yeah,
now.
okay.
Still pretty early in the process.
Yeah, no, that,
Yeah.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Change orders approved. Going to look at our early retirement for the upcoming school year.
And last year, in our October board meeting, we made a motion to approve an early retirement program for last year with the intent of having one in the place for 3 additional years. Tonight, I'm going to recommend this program. To be eligible for this program, a teacher must be 55 years old by June 30th, 2025. They must have 15 years of service in the district. The benefit that they would receive would be 1% of their last year's salary multiplied by years of service, which would be capped at 25. Oftentimes, that's 25%. $25 would be paid out for each unused sick day and 5 years of health insurance. That is the exact same program as last year. So what I'm recommending to you guys tonight is the same program that we approved last year for this year's early retirement program.
And are we doing, so many? Are we capping this
Yep,
at?
capped at 6. Thank you for bringing that up. Yep, capped at 6, with priority being with years of service in the district.
Sorry.
And what's the window that they have for?
It would, if approved, it would start tomorrow, and it would go till,
January 10th, I see.
Yeah.
I think that's when we approve it. It's the Thursday prior to that, I think the 6th or 7th, which is what we've done in the past. We get, as soon as it's approved, we open it up, and then we give them until that January board meeting. That gives us, if I do get an application, in the past, I have advertised it as anticipated, which lets us get in on early graduates and people who are out looking for jobs, which is a really good thing. Even if they aren't one of the 6 approved, it still lets us post those jobs. We give them that full-time by law. I think you have to give them 50 days, 55 maybe, but we've always given them the whole time that we have available, which I think is good. We don't want to force people into decisions. We want them to make decisions that are best for them, and giving them time, that time to do that, specifically over the holiday break, I think is beneficial for them.
And I assume that on number 4, that's full-time employment, because obviously we want them to come back and sub, right?
Yes, it is. And they can come back for full-time employment. This is just saying that there's no guarantee, and we would have to, ask them to apply.
You're right, yeah.
Okay, Lisa, if you'll change in paragraph 1, October 15, 2024, instead of 25, before it goes out. Very first paragraph. October 15, 2024 should be the date, I
Yeah.
believe.
Okay. Good catch, thank you, Tom. All right, any further discussion?
We did gather some data from last month's meeting. We had 24 people who would be eligible over a 3-year time period, so I sent a survey to them. If you had a choice between all cash or insurance benefit, which would you prefer? 70% of our staff preferred the insurance benefit. So we did gather some of that information to see if we were.
I thought we already talked about we weren't gonna do a cash benefit.
Well, we had discussed that, but
And I thought we had said legally too, there's some.
there are with equity issues as well as in lieu of, but I did gather that information. You could go straight cash and not one or the other. What creates the issue is doing both at the same time. Like a person would pick cash and a person would pick insurance. That's what creates the equity issue.
Yeah, it needs to be one or the other.
One or the other.
All right, thank you, Joe, for that update. We need a motion then to approve our early retirement program.
So moved.
Thank you, Andrew. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Lana. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Early retirement approved for this school year, I guess. Appoint an IASB delegate. And
Yeah.
I'm surely willing to let it go if we have someone.
The ISB Delegate Assembly is November 20th at 9 a.m. There's 3 roles in that assembly. There's an annual meeting. In that annual meeting, second thing is set the legislative platform. We always have our priorities that we send in, like every school district in the state does, and from there, the legislative platform is set. And 3, convene the nominating caucus to select candidates for the board of directors. So Rodney has been a part of it. I think it's a good process and probably an interesting one at times. There's always different topics or different things on
Some
there.
years it's a little more, longer than others.
Yeah.
And I find it a great way to network with a smaller group, too.
I nominate
People that-
Rodney Davis to be our delegate.
I second
I
that.
I will do it again if necessary.
Congratulations.
Well, there's a motion and a second, it still needs to be approved, so that part needs to come through. Did you get that, Lisa? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, I'll be down there on Wednesday.
We appreciate you, Rad.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can get many to come on Thursday, though, do consider that. Coming
Yeah.
down on
Yeah.
Thursday at least,
Yeah.
Or
So-
come down on Wednesday,
Yeah, Wednesday night.
spend the night, and we'll
Yep.
go out for dinner together.
Yep,
Yeah.
do things like that too.
Party.
A lot of boards do that.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. All right, we need to look at the goals for Joe for the upcoming year. And
What I attached, and it's in your packet, is the last year, the 3 goals that we had for myself. They're all based on district goals, and they're general, and that's intentional. Goal 1 last year is to manage school operations and resources to promote each student's academic success and well-being. Goal 2, cultivate an inclusive, caring, and supportive school community that promotes the academic success and well-being of each student. And 3, develop and support intellectually rigorous, coherent systems of curriculum instruction and assessment to promote each student's academic success. So on that document, it always has that goal. It has which district goal, and then it has the ISSL standard that's tied to it. We could keep those, and it's up to you guys. We can have other goals. We can have sub-goals as part of that. Certainly chronic absenteeism is something that I'm working on, and we're working on in our district a lot. That could be a sub-goal. Being the environment and being present for our staff and in the buildings is a goal that I'm working on. I talked about that in a memo a few weeks ago, where I'm monitoring my time in other school buildings and the number of staff that I sit down with one-on-one and talk to. So that could be something that is a sub-goal, or could be a goal, however you wanted to do that. So those are a few things that we could put data to, that we've talked about. How do we measure these things? That's something we could do if you chose. But it's really up to you guys on what you want these goals to be.
Joe, on 2A3, I understand like student EPER, what, that's student?
Let's see, adult to adult, adult to student, student to peer. I bet that's what that is.
Pepper. So I like the high level, the 1, 2, 3. Under 2, and this is kind of what we were getting at too, at the board retreat, and I know you've been working hard on, but maybe calling out something about staff and teacher support.
Yep.
Right, to really make sure that because at the end of the day, if we're not supporting them, right, it's our students are impacted. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, Joe, but.
Well, what I thought, we would get some ideas. I could write those and send those to you guys, because I have some ideas and those are, I think, aligned with the work that I'm doing, being purposeful in those buildings. I think that's how, how we measure some of those things. So I think that's good and something that we can add.
And maybe that's a
to
fourth
two.
one item, because you obviously worked really hard in the recruiting area too, bringing in the right staff and teachers and so on. So yeah, maybe it's its own thing, but I think it's certainly worth
Yeah.
calling out.
I will plan on writing that and sending that out, and we can, I think adding that to 2 is a good thing, Andrea.
And we did talk at the agenda review, we did kind of like the chronic absenteeism and the environment and part of it too, as measurable.
Okay, so those would be good ones to add.
All right. Is this something then that we want to wait till you add those to look to approve, or we just kind of, how do we want to?
I think there's a couple ways you could do it. One thing you could do is approve these 3, and then me to bring supporting goals to them
Okay.
in our next meeting. Or we could just wait and do the whole thing. It's really up to you guys.
I say we just table it.
Yeah.
Do I need to make a motion?
Yeah, we can, yeah, we should. I mean, it's
Make a
on the
motion
agenda.
To table our agenda item related to approving superintendent.
Thanks, Andrew. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Lanny. We have a motion and a second then to table the goals until Joe gets a few more little specifics into them for the
Yep.
next meeting.
That'd be great.
Sounds like, any other comments or comments? I guess. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll look at those next month then. Table approved. We could still set the progress review dates, though.
Yeah.
We usually do 2, right?
We had went to 2, we had talked about 1, really up to you guys on what you want to do there.
Yeah.
I think it is a good opportunity to discuss progress towards goals, before we get to the end of the year in an evaluation, so whenever we want to do that.
Well, I think we realized last year February didn't work well. Is March too late? Was that what we were kind of thinking, or were we thinking maybe one time, I think, is what we came to?
Yeah.
Would be good.
Do you feel comfortable with that, Joe, or is it kind of, do you want to do like a mid-year and then kind of an end?
Well,
That's what-
I think that's what
I guess that's.
that
what
was
I
always our
thinking
plan,
towards.
and they kind of blended together, I guess. So, if we have 1 in January, February,
Okay.
as our 1, and then in June, we are already at the,
Well, that's all I was thinking. We'd have 1 before our final,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
June.
yeah, you could do it.
But I guess I don't know what month you guys think. I just remember we moved it
We have
last
moved it.
year a month, and we've done that 2 years in a row because there was low attendance a couple, 1 month.
Is there a month in there that usually has a very short agenda?
Nope.
January, we're going to approve all early retiree applications.
I would start getting into budget.
You get past January, we're going to get into budget
So
stuff.
you get into budget.
I would-
Start in January.
Yeah, I think January would be
Okay.
the best place to put it if you had one.
Halfway through the school year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
All right.
motion to set it in January at board meeting
Okay, thank you,
In
Brent.
June? January and June, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
in June.
Do you have a motion then to set the progress reviews for January and June in by Brent? And who's the second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Todd. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll go into approve allowable growth for special ed as we've done.
This is a typical October agenda item. A district may request allowable growth and supplemental aid for the current school year's negative special education balance. So the Department of Management calculates this number in yellow, which is $1,017,000. That's based off your special ed deficit from the year before. So what we're doing is we're approving to request the allowable growth. We're approving to request the ability to tax for this in the spring. So what you do today, it's not approving the dollars, it's approving to have the authority to do that. And then when we set our budget, we set cash reserve levies based upon these amounts. We do not typically set for this entire amount, but it's to recoup some of those dollars.
Yeah, it's been a pretty standard practice for us to go ahead and do that each year.
Yeah.
So we at least have the authority.
You have the authority, you have the ability to do
Yep.
that.
The ability to do that.
I make a motion to approve the allowable growth request for special ed.
Thank you, Andrew. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Todd. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Allowable growth request approved. We're looking at approve the LEP allowable growth then.
LEP stands for Limited English Proficiency. Again, this is an application for dollars spent in excess of limited English proficiency. So the certified enrollment that I certified today has an additional 16 students, and that is based upon all of our English language learners. You get an additional funding for them. It's not at a whole, it's at a fraction. And you add all those fractions up, it equals 16. this is, what we're requesting now is the authority to spend beyond that, because that 16 obviously doesn't fund, our 3 EL teachers, for example. So this is the amount beyond that of $89,000. This number is bigger than previous years as our number of students with limited English proficiency grows. Just to get a mind of how the whole thing works, it takes about 90 English learners to generate that 16 student number. So 90 students equals that 16 student number. It's an incredibly underfunded category in education in Iowa, which is why we have to request these excess dollars.
Is our state working on that at all?
Well, I hope so, but it's been like this for a number of years. Hasn't affected this district maybe as much as it is right now, as some of those populations are changing for us. But
It's crazy. My kids were telling me just how the dynamics of some of their classes with students, English language learners, and it's just, sometimes they're just left there just to sit, because they can't get it. And that's Google Translate between the teachers and on phones and different things. So.
all of our English learners certainly come at different levels. Some are, they're new to the country. This is their first time in a school in the United States. Others, we have walking across our stage getting scholarships at graduation, which we had a number of last year. So it does depend on how long they've been here. They are very, very successful for us academically when they're here multiple years. Very successful.
I make a motion to approve the LEP allowable growth request.
Thanks, Andrea. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Thanks, Tom. We have a motion and a second to approve the LEP allowable growth. Any further discussion?
I do like seeing, in addition to your written notes, the documentation,
Good. Good.
both on this and special ed.
Yeah, see where those numbers come from and or right from the.
You see where they come from.
Yep.
All right, any other discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Allowable growth approved. All right, we're going into FFA National Conference.
Our FFA students will be attending the National Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. Great experience for our students. They typically report back to us, and they usually do a fantastic job at that. So, but the highlights of their trip at our November meeting. So we need to approve their out-of-state trip.
Motion to approve their trip.
Thanks, Brent. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Lana. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Good luck and safe travels to them. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Out-of-state trip approved. Approve the Cassuth County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Over the past year, we've been working with Cassuth County to develop and adopt a hazard mitigation plan. This is a community-guided document. It identifies vulnerability, hazards, mitigation projects to reduce the vulnerability. Having an approved and updated plan makes our community stronger. It's more resilient. As a public school district, we are a particular jurisdiction for the plan. So we have this resolution that needs to be approved as part of that. So I recommend the approval of this resolution for the Cassuth County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Any questions or? All right, hearing none, I need a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve the hazard mitigation plan.
Thanks, Todd. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hazard mitigation plan resolution approved. Approve the girls' basketball fundraising request.
Girls basketball is going to be conducting a fundraiser with Leading Edge Fundraising for new 9th grade JV and varsity practice jerseys and shorts. They anticipate raising about $3,000 in doing that. So I recommend this fundraising request.
Motion to approve fundraising request.
Thanks, Brent. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Thanks, Tom. We have a motion and a second then. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Fundraising request approved. Resignations.
We do have some open enrollments.
Oh. No, just wasn't on mine. Sorry, I was looking at the paper one, not the one in front of me.
We have 5 open enrollment applications. All of these are timely filled, so they do meet the requirements, and I do recommend the approval of these 5 applications.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to get it with Andrea and Brent. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Open enrollment's approved.
No resignations.
No resignations, though, yep. And dismissal.
We have 1 dismissal. That's part of your packet. I recommend the approval of this dismissal.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thanks, Andrea. Lanny and Andrea. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Dismissal approved. I'll go into new contracts, which are quite a few. sitting.
All right, I'll take a deep breath here. We got a number of new contracts.
Well, some are volunteer, but yeah.
Some aren't, most. Jeannie Farrell, non-public Title I teacher. Title I is a federal program. It being a federal program, our funds, the Catholic schools' funds flow through us to them. That's always been that way. There's been times when we send a teacher there to provide Title I. They've had third-party groups provide the Title I. It can be done a number of different ways. Jeannie Farrell is going to provide the Title I, and our next hire, Myra Miller, will be the 2 Title I teachers for them. They can't work for them. Officially, they're contracted by us, and then we pay their salaries. So that's why we're approving Jeannie Farrell and Myra Miller, and they're paid then their allocated amount. Third approval, Kylie Barnett, Lucia Wallace, teacher associate.
You forgot Morgan.
Morgan is Damaris.
Oh, yeah, Morgan. I think my list might be different. I'll get them all.
Okay.
Morgan Damaris, JV softball coach. Kylie Barnett, JV. Kylie Barnett, Lucia Wallace, teacher associate. Troy Nation, volunteer boys wrestling coach. Drew Severson, volunteer middle school girls basketball coach. Josh Stroman, middle school boys wrestling coach. Brian Morgan, boys wrestling volunteer. Chad Slagle, boys wrestling volunteer. James Roeder, boys wrestling volunteer. Jordan Limbaugh, boys wrestling volunteer. Cody Alish, boys wrestling volunteer. Jay Bustrom, boys wrestling volunteer. Corey Bustrom, boys wrestling volunteer. Tyler Lighting, boys basketball volunteer. Blake Elsbecker, boys basketball volunteer. Keely Miller, girls basketball volunteer pending coaching authorization. And Bob Arnold, middle school wrestling coach.
Who is Bob Arnold?
Retired educator. His son Trevor is a high school special ed teacher for us. His wife, or Trevor's wife Rachel, works at Lucia Wallace. Bob's moved back to the area. He's also driving a bus for us. So
Great.
Is that Morgan Damaris? Is she a teacher in the district? or-
she's not.
She's, okay.
Married a regional person, came back here. College softball player, background in lessons and coaching softball, so.
I just didn't know if it was I didn't recognize the name, so
No.
I make a motion to approve contracts.
Thanks for reading my mind. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right.
Lanny Campbell.
Right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Contracts approved.
As
All
we
we-
were racing through, who did the second for the basketball fundraising? You did the motion.
I think Andrea did. Sure, right? Okay, yep.
I
Same
read
group.
her, yeah, I remember.
You have to go back on the film if you missed it, right? All right, we need a motion then. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Enjoy the cooler weather, I guess, but we need a motion for adjournment.
Motion adjourned.
Todd motioned, and who's
I'll
second? Brent's a backup. We are adjourned.
Troy is nephew, right?
Just he looks
Done
like
some
me.
subbing for
Have
us.
you seen him?
I have seen.
Let's see. driver's license picture.
He's your nephew? My nephew.
He looks like you, pretty much.
He does. He does.
Okay.